How many of you are looking back to all the red flags you ignored before marrying? First story. How do I forgive myself for not acting upon it? By building yourself into someone who won't do that again. Look at your life and how you were built into someone who would have accepted those behaviors. I see exactly why I was a person who accepted what I accepted. I'm not mad at her, I'm sad for her. I'm sad she thought that's all she could get for love. I'm sad she thought she had to deal with what she dealt with in the name of unconditional love. I spent the 5 years leading up to my divorce working on myself. In that time, I was trying to fix my marriage from my side, even still believing that if I just loved him hard enough, or right enough, that he'd finally love me back. I now see that he wasn't really happy with me, but didn't think he could do better. And then he resented me for not being better. Better in this case means thinner, and more willing to do all of the housework and childcare. Now I understand his issues aren't about me, and he'll never fix them until he sees he has issues he needs to fix.
Hi.
He's still,
I'm Guy
3.5
from
years later, blaming every nay but himself for his refusal to grow up. 20-year-old me has all of my compassion and all of my forgiveness. 42-year-old me has solid values and boundaries and is ready to mama bear for herself as well as for her kids. Second story. Right off the bat the red flags flew. But I chose to ignore them. I was in a place of turmoil, it was a year after my first divorce, not happy with myself etc. I wish I would have recognized things would be okay and just calmed TF down and worked on myself. Instead we got married, and now 12 years later I'm facing another divorce. 12 years of good stuff, but when it was bad it was toxic. I hate who I am around him, and thankfully I'm in therapy. Bekwase, I want to unlearn my reactions when things start going south. I walked on eggshells for 12 years. I'm stressed the hell out with this new divorce he filed earlier this week, but only Bekwase of finances and trying to afford everything with 2 kids in this economy. I wasn't perfect. Your point 3 resonates with me. My spouse stayed stuck on the hamster wheel, as I called it. Over and over the same thing for hours yelling at me. I tried to push for what is the resolution to it, but he stayed stuck on the wheel, spinning until he would decide to stop talking and get off the wheel. I'm looking forward to the peace, but there is a hefty cost. I will never ever get married again, and really I don't ever want to be in a relationship again. Every man I've ever chosen in my life, and even the one I didn't choose, has been a major letdown. I'm jealous of the people who have the good ones. Bekwase, I can't seem to pick them. And yes, I know I'm a contributor too, but holy crap, it shouldn't be this hard. Third story. This is what I'm struggling with most. Like, how was I really that dumb to write so much off? Honestly, I believe my STBXH has a good heart and it overall a good person. But I knew he was an alcoholic. He was so functional and we were younger and having fun, so I wrote it off. I knew he was a liar, but when confronted would come clean and apologize, so I took it as a mistake. He was financially irresponsible, but he did end up opening a savings account and cut back on spending a bit, so I thought he was making permanent changes. He was avoidant with other relationships, but not with me then, so I thought he wouldn't become that way with me either. He didn't have a driver's license but said he'd have one before we had a child, so I agreed to have a child with him. I could go on and on. So often his actions didn't align with his words. I am so ashamed of myself and so disappointed in myself for ignoring my gut and anxiety. Like many, I was coming out of a long-term relationship when we got together, and having been best friends for a year, I thought he was the one. I can say that this has been one of the most humbling experiences of my life, and profoundly good for my growth. I've done more work on my attachment issues than I ever have before, and have finally conquered my anxiety. I'll eventually get over the anger and shame and sadness of choosing him. 2.4 story. Therapy, reading, and talking has made me realize I ignored a whole field of those flags. Some things stuck, some I made excuse for, some I saw as quirks, and others I ignored. One time he was truly cruel and I left the room, went into the opposite side of the bed on the floor. He came on while I was bawling and tried to hug me and asked why I was crying, said he didn't want me cry, with a big shit-eating grin on his face. That's when I couldn't fake it anymore. I still tried to save us, but my body shut down. Intimacy with him after that was degrading and I had no trust. He'd take my stuff and hide it. I figured it was his Tetris cleaning. No, I had 2 items he had me convinced he never saw, but if they were still in a box, they were last I saw them, then he put them in his shop. I found them, not boxed, hidden under the bed when I was packing. And that's just one example out of dozens. He said he never apologized because he was never wrong. He then screamed at me for 3 hours because he thought Prussia and Russia were the same thing. Or there was the hours of screaming because he thought I was having some fun time with my Rose solo, but the toy had been dead for 2 months. He'd manipulate people. I always laughed that his mom would fall for it. I could see through it, but sometimes I go with it. But I would be very upfront. I saw what he was doing. In later years he'd get pissed and rage. He would physically hurt me while drunk and then ask me where the bruise came from. Even the kids were like, WTF? You kicked a stool and it hit her in the leg, dude. He got drunk and yelled at me, I'm not the one seeing a shrink and taking meds. I said, neither am I. What are you talking about? The shocked Pikachu face makes so much more sense now that I hear he's been setting a narrative for years to his family and friends. Lord, I'm so crazy and a pull addict, but I also need to support him for the rest of his life, make it make sense. He apparently tried to turn my kids against me. That was interesting to hear. And got mad and cussed the youngest out when she disagreed with him. Both my kids are doing amazing since we got a no contact. The oldest doesn't need the meds she was on for 2 decades to sleep anymore. The youngest is doing great as well. It kills me that I let them be in that environment as long as I did. I failed them terribly. It took an assault on the youngest and myself, with strangulation and broken bones, but we are free. And the household is so damn peaceful. 5 story. Probable cheating for years. Can't confirm and she wouldn't admit to it even now, but so many little things over the years that I trusted her and took her word for. Until last summer when I had the smoking gun. The unwillingness to improve and grow. For years she was just content staying in a dead-end serving job without tips at a golf course and did nothing to improve her employment prospects and just relied on me financially. The picking fights unnecessarily and then calling people to vent about me in front of me when I didn't just back down. Manipulation. Using that time of the month to be a total, you know what. Hidden spending that even still won't tell me what it was for. Never get a joint account with someone so they'll stop taking out Wonga loans. Man facepalming the financial thievery because she wouldn't make enough to cover what she wanted. I could go on, and I'm not saying I was perfect, but having blinders on and blind faith in their words was my biggest mistake. I allowed myself to be used. That last sentence resonates with me. The guilt and anger towards yourself is harder to process, emo. As you kind of don't even expect anything better from the ex, but you did expect better from yourself. Face with cold sweat. Don't beat yourself up. I'm trying to find more compassion for past me, who had to learn a lot about healthy boundaries and self-protection. Hope this post is a start that you also try to forgive yourself for trusting someone who took advantage of that. 6 story. Regarding my soon-to-be ex, looked up her medical mental illness based on soon internet digging. Pathological demand avoidance, meaning I married a psycho and thought I could help. Are you diagnosing this or did a psychiatrist diagnose this? I have been back and forth with counselors and therapists for 15 years with her. Honestly, the divorce is being forced by her because our child's mental illness is getting worse and I am making her deal with it rather than ignore it. To be honest, someone on the internet told me to look into demand avoidance and everything fit. My son has it, my wife has it, her mother has it. This week I am meeting with her therapist to get this added to the already long list of mental health shit wrong with her. My only problem was not realizing how bad things were before the kid was born. She is very good at masking. I always find it alarming when unqualified people use the internet to diagnose a condition that USULY takes a medical degree and years of practice to learn. And even more alarming, you are meeting with her therapist. I have a hard time believing a qualified therapist would speak to you about her diagnosis so you could use it ammunition for divorce. That said, people with mental illness, myself included, don't usually try to mask their illness. They are fighting for their survival with the broken coping skills and chemical makeup that they have despite best intentions. Even in the times where I knew what I was saying was inappropriate, it was like a self-propelled locomotive and I couldn't stop it until I was in the correct meds and seeing a skilled therapist. I have no experience with the condition you are diagnosing your wife's whole family with, but if it is fact her diagnosis, I hope she gets the help and support she needs. I don't blame anyone for admitting that they do not have the patience or skills to stay with someone with mental illness. But on the other hand, finger pointing doesn't help either. 8 story. My first had major red flags long before the wedding, to the point that before my father walked me down the aisle he stopped and told me it wasn't too late to change my mind. I had no idea what he was talking about. It took 14 plus years, 2 kids, and developing severe IBD and depression for me to finally wake up. The second one had nothing that I saw as major red flags until we moved in together about 6 weeks before the wedding. At the time, for various reasons I convinced myself that he was just scared, but I had enough love, time and patience to fix that. No I didn't. He actually turned out to be a rare, true clinical narcissist, not just someone I'm throwing the label at so casually like so many people do these days. The third one has had some major red flags, but unlike the others he acknowledged he came into this marriage with issues, and was willing to go to therapy individually as a couple, as was I, because I came in with my own shit, obviously, and the good definitely outweighs the bad. Also, the reality is that given my age, 67, my health issues, bad, and what my financial status would be, weary, if we were to get a divorce, that isn't really an option anymore anyway. Point 9 story. Not divorced. Yet. After 32 years, a military career, buying a house and numerous vehicles, 1 kid plus raising her 2 boys from her first marriage. I finally got tired of being the bad guy, always being told I treated everyone like shite, never thinking of anyone but myself, horrible with finances, even though I paid for everything. Our joint account is funded by my income. She got her own account when she got disability. She moved her brother in while I was at MMI in Orlando. I wanted him out, but NC stopped me unless I took him to court. So I said $K this. So April of last year I packed up my shop, clothes and dogs and left NC and moved to TN on my father's childhood property. She was offered to come with but flatly refused, citing that she's not gonna live somewhere where everyone prior to me living here died of cancer. Her health was crap then, her fault, guzzling Red Bull and smoking at least 2 packs a day and blowing off doc recommendations for as long as I can remember. Anywho, have contacted lawyers in both states and advised by both to write it out, because NC, the Army would make filing very costly to me. I could go on and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of advice, but I'm happy where I'm at, lost 70 pounds. And pretty close to renovating a trailer and have a 12 by 24 shop building, and I plan to start a woodworking business by spring. I'm still paying the mortgage and all of the associated bills related to the house and vehicles. She is responsible for 4 utility bills. I am civil with her, although we don't communicate much. I don't have much to say. She decided that she had to stay there and be the mother figure to my 33-year-old son and her 55-year-old brother who has never lived on his own. Okay, that's enough from me. I'm dealing with my situation as best as I can. If you read to the end, much appreciated. I didn't see red flags for years. When they did start showing up, divorce was not an option due to my military career and the financial devastation I would have experienced. 10 story. Fascinating reading everyone's responses. And yes, I have my own as well. I was young, thought I knew what I wanted, and my STBX ticked a lot of the boxes I thought I was looking for. In hindsight, I realized that all those boxes were for other people and the boxes I needed were red flags instead. Didn't manage his own finances, insurance, taxes, adult paperwork, BS, etc. His dad always did it for him, until I was gullible enough to take it over. Whenever issues have come up, he's basically refused to participate in any discussions or future planning, saying he trusts my judgment. I've made huge life decisions about this stuff all on my own, which left me feeling horribly unsupported. Sexual incompatibility. I told myself this was something we could work on together as our marriage grew, and that by the time we are old, it won't matter. What I ignored was that he didn't care about my sexual pleasure at all, which meant we were never going to improve things because he honestly didn't care to. Household labor inequality. We have both always had full-time jobs, yet he genuinely believed that I should do all the household, woman's, chores. I didn't live with him until 3 months before the wedding, and by that point, I felt too embarrassed and shameful to cancel the wedding. Everything was planned, people had bought plane tickets, all deposits paid, etc. I knew this was a huge red flag because he completely blew me off and ignored me when I brought it up as a serious problem. But, young me thought we could work on this. These are just a few of them, there's more of course. Basically, I saw all the red flags. But I was young and made excuses for each of them. I also naively believed that we would work on these issues together, as partners. I will also say, I'm only commenting because you have given such thoughtful, kind answers to almost every post here. Keep being awesome, my internet friend. Cool 11 story. I met my ex when I was the tender age of 24 years old. We got married when I was 29 and the divorce finalized when I was 33. It has been an emotional roller coaster for me. Looking back, there were so many red flags that I ignored. I thought maybe I could change him or that things would get better. Initially, I was very angry at myself for wasting my youth. However, I've been giving myself more grace. Every relationship teaches you a lesson. Now I understand the importance of establishing boundaries and not allowing a partner to overstep them. I know how to be more communicative the next time. I am more optimistic now that I will find somebody who will be a better fit for me. Someday I will find a partner who will treat me with the respect that I deserve, and that gives me hope. I can choose to be angry about what I went through, or I can choose to be happy that I have a second chance to live the life I deserve and potentially find a partner who can better align with me. I feel it's so common. We are sometimes taught sacrifice for love, and subtle red flags get excused for the sake of this good trait or that one. Meanwhile, those subtleties come up big time when you start spending adequate time with one another and start to navigate the difficulties of life, marriage, kids, careers, etc. The first step to forgiving yourself for not seeing or choosing to ignore is becoming aware of what you overlooked. Acknowledging that will help you not repeat the same, but you also have to commit to not living in the past forever. See gratefulness in the learning opportunity, not despair. Not entirely related, but on my morning walk today I was thinking about how people push the marriage commitment so hard when things aren't working out. It's like the commitment means more than logic, than your health, than anything. You should stay together because you shouldn't give up so easily, like anyone ever takes the decision lightly. It's also this push society gives on marriage that leads you to just deal with the red flags and later makes you end up resenting yourself for the years you gave up and what you ended up accepting. I feel it's so common. We are sometimes taught sacrifice for love, and subtle red flags get excused for the sake of this good trait or that one. Meanwhile, those subtleties come up big time when you start spending adequate time with one another and start to navigate the difficulties of life, marriage, kids, careers, etc. The first step to forgiving yourself for not seeing or choosing to ignore is becoming aware of what you overlooked. Acknowledging that will help you not repeat the same, but you also have to commit to not living in the past forever. See gratefulness in the learning opportunity, not despair. Not entirely related, but on my morning walk today I was thinking about how people push the marriage commitment so hard when things aren't working out. It's like the commitment means more than logic, than your health, than anything. You should stay together because you shouldn't give up so easily, like anyone ever takes the decision lightly. It's also this push society gives on marriage that leads you to just deal with the red flags and later makes you end up resenting yourself for the years you gave up and what you ended up accepting. Bad credit. I knew hers wasn't good, but I didn't realize how bad it was until after we got married. I mean right after. When we showed up, with all of our shit in a moving truck, and the apartment community MGR wouldn't give us our key because she had a vehicle repo on her credit that she didn't mention. I had to call my parents from their office and have them wire the dollar to the bank and wait for confirmation before we could move in. Fuck her for not telling me, and fuck the apartment MGR for not checking before we got there. She also lost her shit on the person behind the deli counter at the grocery store because her quarter pound of sliced turkey was one slice over. She asked for a quarter pound and she wanted a fucking quarter pound. We made it 50 weeks. She called me from her boyfriend's house while I was visiting her parents, had her 6-year-old with me, to tell me she had spent the night with him. I rented a truck, got my dad and some friends together, drove to our place and emptied it to the bare walls. Fuck you, Teresa, you dried up old hag. Together for almost 10 years, married for just over 1. From the outside we were the textbook high school sweethearts, but no one sees behind closed doors. When we got married, he changed. Suddenly he could demand anything of me because I was his wife. Like an object, something to be owned. Any problems we had and I tried to fix were met with, "Well, you married me like this," with no effort to change. It took a death of someone very close to me for me to open my eyes and see our relationship for what it was. I asked for space, he went crazy. Locked me in the house for hours, got physical with me. Faked a suicide attempt. I had completely mentally checked out by this point, and just wanted him to leave me alone. It took for him to be arrested for assault twice and a restraining order for him to get the message and to finally leave me in peace. Suddenly I wasn't controlled anymore. Never settle for someone so selfish and unwilling to work with you. I literally didn't see it because the opportunity wasn't there. I never saw him live alone. He spent most of our late teens and early 20s living with my twin brother and roommates, international workers from the amusement park who were good friends of ours, and I moved in after that. The house, and his apartment with twin bro before that, was always clean enough. Every once in a while, I'd see him doing dishes or cleaning up. Once we got married, I realized that he did nothing. He did no housework. Twin bro told me to tell him what to do. I did, and he'd occasionally do it, but I couldn't follow him around and make sure he picked up after himself all the time. So, especially as roommates started moving out, the house became a mess. Then the baby was born, and again, he was very little help. He would play with the kid and occasionally change a diaper, but all the extra dishes, laundry, shopping, with baby in tow, of course, and cleaning were my responsibility, along with all the feedings. Soon, to his detriment, I realized I could do this on my own and it would actually be less work. That wasn't the only problem in our marriage, but it was the big one, and the one I feel like talking about right now, LDR. Listen to your family and friends. My friends and family warned me that my ex wasn't good for me. I ignored them for 6 years on and off with her until we finally got married. It took me 4 months of being married to realize they had been right all along. It wasn't one specific event that made me realize, I just slowly came to understand that I wasn't happy. It was one of the craziest things I've experienced. 6 years of thinking she was the girl I'd spent my life with, and it only took 4 months of marriage for me to wake up to how unhappy she made me. The real kicker was that looking back, I don't think I was ever actually in love with her. According to my family, friends, I always try to fix the broken ones, without regard for my own feelings, and they saw that's what I was doing well before I did. As a guy, I carried the stigma that I couldn't be on the receiving end of abuse. But if there was ever proof, for me, that a guy can truly be emotionally abused, it was my relationship with her. TBH, feels oddly satisfying to finally say some of that. Edit. I truly appreciate the positive sentiment. Still struggle with this stuff, and the comments, hell even the upvotes, mean a lot. He called me up and confessed to cheating. He was emotional and distraught as he had kissed a girl. I thought it was cute and endearing, because we were 18 and I didn't consider us to be dating or have any obligations to one another. We'd gone on a few dates right after graduation, then both went to out-of-state colleges. I'd gone out with other guys during and since, but that conversation actually started our exclusive relationship. I married him 4 years later, and the weird, cheating, accusations began. They started with periods of silence. He wouldn't speak to me for days, then he'd ask where I'd been at noon 2 weeks prior. He'd mention me dating other guys while in college and point out the time when we weren't a couple. It would slowly escalate from moodiness to insinuations to arguments, and about every 5 years he'd lose it and have a major tantrum over some perceived slight or unaccounted for minute. He brought a friend over and sat her down to tell her I was cheating with the friend's husband, because the husband and I spent too much time together. We were partners on a work project. Only got together outside of work as couples with our spouses. We separated, went to counseling, got back together, and it slowly started again. 5 years later, one of his friends made a dumb joke on his social media about his work-related trip, and somehow this meant I was cheating. Ex said he was going to Miami, friend replies, mice will play when the cat's away. I don't even know they guy. So he accused me of cheating with this guy, and we separated, went to counseling, got back together. He never said a word to the guy, they are still friends. 5 years later he decided I was cheating when I was at a community college play with friends, that he had been invited to. He locked me out of our home, even tied the garage door down so I couldn't open it. We divorced after that one. Wish I could tell 18-year-old me to run for the hills. Edit, he wasn't cheating. He grew up in a house where cheating happened and had fears of abandonment due to father and stepfather both 100% exiting his life after cheating. He still isn't over it. I don't hate him, I wish he could heal. But there is a limit to empathy when being mistreated. Don't cheat, people. It has generational effects on your family.